SciFi Surprize Series continues here with Voyage to the Planet of the Prehistoric Women. Hey everyone, Shannon here. And here we go. SciFi Surprise. Woohoo! 14th film. Like, there's no math I can do. That's like I'm 7th of the 25 times 2. That doesn't make any sense. I don't know any math with 14 and 15, other than reducing a fraction, apparently. Anyway, it's not about math. So, Voyage to the Planet of the Prehistoric Women. This is a film from 1968, and I gotta say, I was a bit worried about this one, because I guess the atomic brain got me leery of, like, oh, there are ones in here where the gender crap flag raises high, and with the title like this, I was like, it could be, you know, that could be definitely potential. But I like the She Gods ones. But anyway, so as it turned out, I actually ended up really getting a lot out of Voyage to the Planet of Prehistoric Women, and I had to hold back from saying enjoy, because this movie is really weird. Like, it's really eerie. The one really good thing is it is science fiction. Yay! Check mark! Is that backwards? Check mark. Actually, I literally can't tell if that was backwards or which. Anyway. Check mark. I should make a check mark thing and I can hold it up like a little flag. So yes, it is science fiction. There is space travel. The goal is getting to Venus, which apparently is the planet of prehistoric women as well. Interesting. I guess, you know, they use some mythology nods here and there, which I like. I'm a huge fan of mythology, and I always find that fascinating. So the goal here is getting to Venus. Now, but this movie is weird. Like, it's just weird. It's very eerie. The score and the sound is very strange, and just unnerving. Whether it's in the space travel, whether it's on Venus, it's just kind of like, this is just a little odd. And it starts a bit like a PSA, like, this is how we go to Venus kind of thing, and lots of models. There are lots of models, actually, on this one, which was quite cool. A lot of this space stuff is, I guess a lot of the ones I've seen recently is like some blurry thing and there it goes. But this one, it's more involved, moving, things that move. That's a step up, and there's also a sense of danger in this one. And I think that combined with the eerie feeling makes it feel more science fiction-y, less campy and more serious, but still with, like, you know, the models and stuff, it's kind of hard to take it that seriously. But, you know, so it's a weird space. There's not a lot of the movies I've seen in this collection or in general are like this. Usually stuff that's like this that looks like this is campy. This movie isn't really campy, although there is some definitely, wow, like, just uncontrollable laughter emanated from me when I watched this movie at certain times, but not in general. Usually I was like... And the other thing that's really weird about this one, and I looked it up and my suspicion was true, is it's actually cobbled together. Because it doesn't... Some of it just sort of doesn't all feel like the same movie. And it is actually cobbled together. There's a Russian film that is a lot of the source material for this film, and then they injected the prehistoric women. Kind of, that's sort of, from what I read, that's sort of my thing. I don't normally research that, but I thought this one, it felt so strongly, you know, that something was off, because it just was like, this doesn't match this, and then it was dubbed, and I was like, oh, like, but it felt, you know, American, so I was like, what's going on with that? So actually, a lot of it is, or some of it, I think a lot of it is a Russian film, and then and then cobbled together, and then added some women. Now we have an American film, so that's kind of weird. But it still has this really eerie tone to it, and I don't know, like, it's weird. Like, I kept on, and the women are actually pretty cool, except for that there's sort of a creative device that's kind of annoying. But the tone of this film overall is just really weird, and I think a lot of it comes from the fact that there's a narrator, which is actually pretty cool. Again, gives it this sort of eerie, almost Twilight Zone type of deal. feel to it. Like, it's just sort of like, you feel like you're sitting a little closer and you're like listening to the story of what's going on. And so there's sort of that element to it, and then there's the narrator, and then there's dubbing, and then there's voiceovers. So all of the speaking parts aren't really in sync with anything. So it gives it this sort of removed feel, but it didn't bother me. It's just sort of not uncomfortable, it's unusual. So to sustain sort of that differentness for the entire film, and it was like an hour 20 minutes, was a bit of a challenge, because it's just odd and I'm not used to it. So, and I actually kind of really dug the Prehistoric Women. They were pretty cool. Like, they could have totally made it more cheesy or more skimpy or whatever. Well, by today's standards, I'm sure by those standards it was pretty skimpy or whatever. But I thought they were pretty cool. So I thought that was fine. And that was what I was most worried about going into this one. Is it just going to be, chancing around? And there's some of that, but it's not. Like, they actually have an interesting perspective, and there's certainly not a lot of character development for them or for anyone. And they're sort of like a mass as opposed to individual characters, kind of. But it works with the film, and so you can only I can't really criticize it that much. And also they're pretty powerful, which is awesome. So I was happy, because I was almost considering not really watching this, but I'm not. I'm going to watch all of these movies. I'm going to watch all of these movies, every single one, unless something is broken with one of the discs or something. And even then, I try and find it. This one actually is public domain. You can watch it online. I'll leave the link below over at the Internet Archive. Actually, now I'm kind of curious to see the original film for comparison's sake. So it's weird. One thing I will say is the visuals weren't that great. It was pretty, I don't know if the right term is dirty. There's definitely spotty stuff on it, and a lot of it, especially on the planet, on Venus, there was a lot of really light scenes, so it gets really washed out. And although technically it says this movie is color, it's almost not. Like, there's a couple, like, it feels like sometimes it has some washes, and I felt the same way about the She Gods of Shark Reef. When you're dealing with beach scenes and a lot of brights, it's just very light, so you almost don't see anything, and then the dark scenes, like in space or whatever, is mostly black. So, I don't really care, I'm not going to criticize it, but, I guess I would criticize that it doesn't feel like a color movie. So if you're very particular on watching black and white films versus color films, this is some sloppy spot in the middle. Like, because it's like, it does feel like it has some washes, but in general it just sort of, it feels old and faded and stuff, and I like that. For me, I don't have a problem with that. So yeah, the audio was weird. It was the dubbing and the voiceover and the narration, but I didn't know that. Like, it took me a fair amount of time to figure it out, because I was like, whoa, that doesn't really look like what he said. And now I know it's a Russian guy speaking Russian and the voiceover. I just wasn't expecting it. But the eerie, creepy factor is very high. Like, for me, I would even, although this is classically science fiction, I would actually put this in if I wanted to watch a horror movie. Like, not a slasher movie. I never want to watch slasher movies. I don't like slasher movies. But, like, I'm sure there's an exception to that, but in general, it's not my go-to for horror. Mine is, like, supernatural and stuff like that. So, but the eerie quality to this movie is what I think is really special about it. So that, if I'm looking for something that just feels a bit strange, that I would go to. And I would also put it in the world of mythology as well. So, but it doesn't fit. My mythology world, in terms of genre definitions, tends to be sword and sandals, and this isn't. This is like astronauts and prehistoric women. Alright, so it's time to pick the next movie. I feel like I should take the one that's popping up right there. I think I'll do that. Changing my methods. I don't usually change my methods. Assignment Outer Space. with Rick Van Nutter from 1960 color. Yay! I think Assignment Outer Space is definitely going to be a science fiction movie. So, it's weird. Last time I think I stopped saying what order, like in terms of my favorites this was, and I think I get mucky. This is the 14th film, this will be the 15th film, and in the teens things just get weird. So I might just leave that for now. I don't know, like I'm trying to figure out how do I want to rank these 1 to 50? I don't know. Like, what's the value of that? Is it fun? For me, this place, it just gets a little squishy. But I actually really like this one, but in a very different way. Although I think my favorite still is The Brain Machine. That was just fabulous. So, but this one, it's hard to place. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. If you have any ideas, if you think I should do 1 to 50, let me know. Or if you have some other ideas, I'd be curious to hear them. So, thanks so much for watching. Prehistoric Women. They were cool.